Captain Ta looked out at the stars from the bridge of the HFY. His ship was the pride of the Korean Space Defense Force. Today was important. For the first time, humans would meet the Nuvari Collective. "Sir, we're approaching the meeting point," said Officer Min at the controls. Ta nodded. "Keep us steady. Let's not make any sudden moves." The Nuvari were not one alien race, but 7 different species who worked together. They had contacted Earth 6 months ago. After many video calls, they had agreed to meet in person. "There they are," said Dr. Han, pointing at the main screen. The Nuvari ship was beautiful. It looked like flowing water made of metal, with no sharp edges anywhere. It was 3 times bigger than the *HFY. "They're hailing us," Min said. "Put them on screen," ordered Ta. The alien that appeared had blue-gray skin and 4 eyes set in a diamond pattern. This was Commander Kell of the Nuvari. "Greetings, Captain Ta," said Kell. Its voice was translated by computers. "We welcome you to Nuvari space." "Thank you for your invitation," Tay replied. "We come in peace and friendship. Our docking bay is open for your shuttle. We look forward to meeting in person." An hour later, Tai led his team onto the Nuvari ship. With him were Dr. Han, Engineer Jun, and Security Officer Su. They were the first humans to set foot on an alien vessel. The inside of the Nuvari ship was as smooth and curved as the outside. Commander Kell met them with 4 other aliens, each from a different Nuvari species. "These are my officers," said Kell. "We have prepared a welcome meal and medical scans if you agree. We are very curious about human biology." "We're curious about yours too," said Dr. Han with a smile. "I'd be happy to exchange medical information." The meal was strange but tasty. The aliens asked many questions about Earth. They seemed most interested in human history, especially wars. "You fought each other for thousands of years?" asked one alien with purple skin and tentacle arms. "Yes," said Ta. "Though we try to be more peaceful now." "Fascinating," said Kell. "And in these wars, how long would humans fight before stopping?" "Until one side won, surrendered, or couldn't fight anymore," explained Su. The aliens looked at each other with all their eyes wide. After the meal, Dr. Han went with the Nuvari medical team. They scanned the humans with their advanced technology. The aliens became more and more excited as they looked at the results. "Is something wrong?" asked Han. The Nuvari doctor, a small green alien named Mira, seemed troubled. "Where is your shutdown system?" "What do you mean?" asked Han. "The neural pathway that stops your body during extreme pain or exhaustion," Mira explained. "All Nuvari species have it. It prevents us from fighting past safe limits." Han laughed. "Humans don't have that. We can keep going if we need to, even when hurt or tired." The aliens stared at her. They looked almost afraid. "That's not possible," said Mira. "No intelligent species could evolve without a safety shutoff. You would kill yourselves in your first conflicts." "Let me show you something," said Han. She pulled up human medical records on her tablet. "This shows soldiers who kept fighting with broken bones. Here are runners who finished races despite collapsed lungs. This woman lifted a car off her child with a broken arm." The Nuvari gathered around the screen. They were silent for a long time. "Captain Ta," Commander Kell finally said over the ship's comm system, "we need to discuss this discovery with our council immediately." Back on the bridge of the *HFY, Tai received a message from a worried-looking Commander Kell. "Is it true?" asked Kell. "Humans have no automatic stop when fighting. No off switch." "That's correct," said Ta. "When we need to, we can ignore pain, keep going when exhausted, and push past normal limits." "Then you are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered," said Kell quietly. Tai didn't know what to say. He had come to make friends, not to frighten his hosts. But the Nuvari were already sending urgent messages across their network of worlds, spreading the alarming news about humans and their missing off switch. 3 days had passed since the first meeting. After much debate, the Nuveri Council decided to continue with the planned cultural exchange. But now, they'd watched the humans with new eyes. Engineer June worked with Nuveri technicians in their engine room. He was amazed by their technology. "How does this power system work?" June asked, pointing at glowing blue tubes. The alien engineer, Dottie, explained, "It takes energy from tiny space cracks. Very efficient." While they worked, June noticed something strange. All Nuveri workstations had beds next to them. "Why are there beds in the engine room?" he asked. Davy looked surprised. "For when workers reach limit, of course. When body shuts down, they rest until reset." "You mean you just stop working in the middle of a job?" "Yes. When pain or tiredness reaches danger level, brain turns off body. Very safe." "How do humans work without this?" June laughed. "We just keep going. If something needs to be fixed, we fix it. Even if it hurts." Davy asked. "Of course. I once worked 36 hours straight when our ship had an oxygen leak. My hands were bleeding, but people would have died if I stopped." Davy stepped back. "Not possible. No Nuveri could override shutdown." Across the ship, Security Officer Sue was having a similar conversation. The Nuveri had invited her to train with their warriors. Their combat room was large and padded. "We will practice light combat," said Kiru, the Nuveri security chief. "First to surrender wins." Sue nodded and took a fighting stance. Kiru moved fast, landing a hard hit on Sue's arm. It hurt, but Sue ignored it and kept fighting. She swept Kiru's legs and pinned the alien down. "Surrender," said Sue. Other Nuveri warriors watched with wide eyes. Kiru got up, looking confused. "That hit should have made you stop," said Kiru. "It was hard enough to trigger shutdown. It takes more than that to stop a human," Sue replied. They fought 4 more rounds. Each time, Kiru landed hits that would shut down a Nuveri fighter. Each time, Sue kept going and won the match. After the last round, Sue's lip was bleeding and her ribs hurt. But she stood tall, ready for more. The Nuveri warriors whispered among themselves. "Enough," said Kiru. "You bleed but still fight. This is disturbing." Meanwhile, Dr. Han was in the medical bay with Mira, the Nuveri doctor. They examined brain scans of both species. "See here," Mira pointed to an image of a Nuveri brain. "This is our shutdown center. When body signals become too strong, this part takes control and shuts down all movement. It keeps us from harming ourselves." Han looked at the human brain scan next to it. "We don't have that. Our brains release chemicals that can actually block pain during emergencies." "But why?" asked Mira. "Why would evolution allow such a dangerous thing?" "Because sometimes survival depends on not stopping," Han explained. "A mother protecting her child, a soldier saving friends, or just someone who needs to finish something important." Captain Ta met with Commander Kell on the bridge. The mood was tense. "Your people are causing concern," said Kell. "They keep going when any Nuveri would shut down. Some of my crew are afraid." "We don't mean to scare anyone," said Ta. "This is just how humans are. But don't you see the danger? Without natural limits, you could destroy yourselves in war. How did your species survive?" Ta thought for a moment. "Maybe because we know we can push too far, we learned to be careful. We created rules, laws, and morals." Kell didn't look convinced. "There is a faction among our people, the Vex. They believe any species without natural limits is a threat to the galaxy. They are calling for an end to this contact." "We came in peace," Ta said firmly. "We want to be friends, not enemies." "I believe you," said Kell. "But the Vex grow stronger each day we learn more about humans. They fear what we have discovered." As they spoke, a small Nuveri ship left the main vessel, moving away at high speed. It carried a message to the Vex leaders. Humans confirmed to have no combat shutdown mechanism. They are dangerous beyond measure. Prepare defensive measures immediately. The human crew didn't know it yet, but their lack of an off switch had just made them a target. The Heyday left the Nuveri mothership after completing the week-long cultural exchange. Despite growing tension, Captain Ta felt the mission had been mostly successful. "Set course for Earth," Tide ordered. "Let's go home and report what we've learned." "Course set, Captain," replied Officer Min from the controls. "We'll reach the jump point in 30 minutes. Ta looked at his crew. They were tired but proud. They had made history as the first humans to visit an alien civilization. Dr. Han was sorting her medical data. Engineer Jun was checking the engine readings. Security Officer Su watched the ship's sensors. Nuveri liaison Mira had joined them for the return journey to Earth. She stood quietly in a corner, still not fully comfortable around humans who could ignore their limits. As she put it, "Captain," Su suddenly called out, "I'm picking up 3 ships approaching fast from behind us." "Nuveri ships?" asked Ta. "Similar design, but smaller and heavily armed." The main screen blinked on. A Nuveri face appeared, but not Commander Kell. This alien had red markings on its blue skin. "Human vessel," the alien said coldly. "This is Commander Vex of the Protection Fleet. Your kind represents a danger to all civilized species. You will power down and prepare to be boarded." Ta stepped forward. "We came in peace and are leaving in peace. We have done nothing wrong." "Your existence is wrong," said Commander Vex. "A species without shutdown controls cannot be trusted. You might destroy the galaxy in your endless fighting." Mira moved to Ta's side. "This is not authorized by the Nuveri Council. Captain Ta, these are extremists. We must protect the galaxy," Vex continued. "Surrender now." "We will not surrender," said Ta firmly. "Min, maximum speed. Jun, get ready for jump as soon as we reach the point." The Heyday surged forward, but the Vex ships were faster. They opened fire. The first blast hit the engines. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. "Engine damage," shouted Jun. "Jump drive is offline." Another hit rocked the ship. Sparks flew from the control panels. A support beam crashed down, trapping Jun underneath. His leg was crushed. "Jun." Dr. Han rushed to him. "I'm okay," he gasped, though clearly in terrible pain. "Need to fix the engines." Mira stared in shock. How can he even speak? His leg is crushed. Any Nuveri would be shut down from that pain. "We can't outrun them," said Su. "We need to find a place to hide or land." Min pointed to the screen. "Captain, there's a moon with a thick atmosphere. It might shield us from their sensors." "Take us in," ordered Ta. "Quickly." The Heyday limped toward the moon, taking more hits as it went. The ship entered the moon's cloudy atmosphere, shaking dangerously. "Find a landing spot," Ta shouted over the alarms. "There." Min pointed at a flat area between rocky hills. "Best I can do." The landing was hard. Metal screamed as the ship skidded across the rocky ground. Finally, it stopped. "Status report," Ta called out. "Engines dead," said Min. "Communications damage. Life support working." Su checked her screens. "The Vex ships are circling. They'll find us soon." Meanwhile, Jun was still trapped under the beam. Dr. Han tried to lift it but couldn't. "Need to cut him out," she said. To everyone's surprise, Jun was still conscious. Despite his crushed leg, he was typing on his tablet. "What are you doing?" asked Mira in disbelief. "Rerouting? Emergency power," Jun said through gritted teeth. "Can still fix communications." Mira turned to Dr. Han. "Why haven't you shut him down? He needs medical sleep." "We don't work that way," Han replied, preparing a painkiller. "And right now, we need everyone working if we're going to survive." Captain Todd gathered his officers. "The Vex will send landing parties soon. We need to prepare defenses." Mira watched in horror and fascination as the injured humans ignored their pain and exhaustion to prepare for battle. She had never seen anything like it. "No off switch," she whispered. "The Vex fear you because they don't understand. You're not dangerous because you can keep fighting. You're dangerous because nothing will make you give up." Outside, the first Vex ships began their descent toward the crashed HFY. Night fell on the strange moon. Captain Ta stood at the broken window of the HFY, watching distant lights in the sky. The Vex ships were landing. "How many?" asked Sue, limping to his side. She had been hurt in the crash but refused to rest. "At least 3 ships," said Ta. "Maybe 60 fighters. We have 15 crew members who can still fight," Sue said. "Not good odds." Ta nodded. "Set up defense points around the ship. Use the rocks for cover." In the medical bay, Dr. Han worked without stopping. She had been treating injured crew for 10 hours straight. Her hands shook from tiredness, but she kept working. "You need rest," said Mira, watching her stitch a wound on a crewman's arm. "I'll rest when everyone is stable," Han replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. "But your body will shut down soon," Mira insisted. Han smiled weakly. "No, it won't. That's what you're not understanding. I can choose to keep going." In another part of the ship, Engineer Jun lay on his back under a control panel. His crushed leg was wrapped in a temporary cast, but the pain was terrible. Still, his hands moved quickly, fixing wires and reconnecting systems. "Communications are almost working," he called to Min. "I've repaired the emergency beacon. We just need power." "How are you doing this?" asked Mira, who had come to check on him. "In your condition, any Nuvari would be unconscious." "Can't afford to be unconscious," Jun said through gritted teeth. "Too much depends on getting a message out." Outside, Sue had set up defense positions using pieces of the broken ship and nearby rocks. The air on the moon was thin but breathable. The ground glowed slightly blue, casting an eerie light. "They're coming," shouted a lookout. 3 groups from different directions. Sue grabbed her weapon. "Everyone in position. Remember, aim for their center mass." The first Vex soldiers appeared from the shadows. They moved carefully, weapons ready. They didn't expect much resistance from the crash humans. They were wrong. The humans opened fire from hidden positions. 3 Vex soldiers fell immediately. The others scattered for cover. "Keep firing," shouted Sue. "Don't let them get close to the ship." The battle was fierce but short. The Vex retreated after losing 10 soldiers. The humans lost 2. Inside the ship, Ta heard the gunfire stop. "Report," he called into his radio. "First wave pushed back," Sue replied. "But they'll come again with more soldiers." "Hold your positions," ordered Ta. "June, how's the beacon coming?" "Almost. Got it," said June. Suddenly, a light flickered on the panel. "It's working. Sending distress signal now." Mira watched in amazement. "Your leg is broken in 3 places. You have internal bleeding. How are you still conscious, let alone working?" June didn't answer. He had finally passed out from the pain, but only after finishing his task. Dr. Han rushed in. "Get him to medical bay now." As they carried June away, Mira turned to Min. "I've never seen anything like this. Your people just keep going." "That's what humans do," Min said simply. Outside, the Vex were regrouping. Their commander stared at the human ship with confusion. "How are they still fighting?" he asked his officers. "Our scans show several have injuries that should trigger shutdown." "Remember, they have no shutdown mechanism," an officer replied. The intelligence was correct. "Then we must use more force," the commander decided. "Prepare all troops for attack. We will overwhelm them." Back at the ship, Sue saw the Vex gathering for another attack. Despite her injuries, she checked her weapon and prepared. "They're coming back," she told her team. "Much bigger force this time." A young crewman looked scared. "We can't hold against so many." Sue put a hand on his shoulder. "We can, And we will. That's what humans do. We don't have an off switch, remember. Captain Tay's voice came over the radio. All hands, prepare for full defense. Help may not come in time, but we will show these aliens what humans can do. As the Vex forces moved forward, the injured and exhausted humans readied themselves for a fight that any other species would have surrendered long ago. The siege had only just begun. Dawn broke on the alien moon. The crashed HFY was surrounded by Vex forces. The humans had fought all night, pushing back 3 attacks. Now they were running low on ammunition and energy. Captain Ta gathered his officers in what was left of the command center. Everyone looked tired. Some were bandaged and bleeding. We can't just wait for them to attack again, Ta said. We need to take the fight to them. Sir, we're outnumbered, said Min. And half our crew is injured. That's why they won't expect us to attack, Tay replied. June, what's the status of those devices you were working on? Engineer June sat in a makeshift wheelchair. His crushed leg was properly set now, but he couldn't walk. Still, his mind was sharp. I've made 6 EMP bombs from our damaged systems, he said. They should disable Vex weapons and communications. Security Officer Sue studied the map they had made of Vex positions. If we can hit their command ship, we might confuse them long enough to gain an advantage. That's exactly what we'll do, said Ta. Sue, take our best fighters and create a distraction on the east side. Meanwhile, I'll leave a small team to hit their command ship. Dr. Han looked worried. Captain, you have 3 broken ribs from the crash. You shouldn't be running into battle. Can't be helped, Ta said simply. Every able body is needed. Mira, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. The air outside has high levels of toxic gas. Your sensors might not have detected it yet, but it will cause severe lung damage with extended exposure. Then we'll move fast, said Ta. Any Nuvari would shut down in those conditions. Right. Mira nodded. Our bodies would stop functioning after 10 minutes of exposure. Then they won't expect us to stay out there longer than that. Ta smiled grimly. We have an advantage. An hour later, the plan was in motion. Sue led a team of 5 humans to attack the eastern Vex position. They made a lot of noise, drawing attention. Meanwhile, Ta, Min, and 2 others crawled through the blue glowing plants toward the Vex command ship. Each carried one of June's EMP bombs. The toxic air burned their lungs, but they kept moving. The Vex aren't wearing breathing masks, whispered Min. They think the air is safe for short periods. Good, said Ta. They'll never expect us to stay out this long. The sound of gunfire came from the east. Sue's distraction was working. Vex soldiers ran toward the noise, leaving the command ship with fewer guards. Taz's team reached the ship's landing gear. The toxic air was taking its toll. Their eyes watered and breathing was painful. Any Nuvari would have shut down by now, their bodies protecting them from damage. But the humans pushed on. Plant the bombs on the engines and communication array, ordered Ta between coughs. Set timers for 3 minutes. As they worked, a Vex guard spotted them. Humans, he shouted, raising his weapon. Min tackled the guard before he could fire. They rolled on the ground fighting. The guard was stronger, but Min fought with desperate energy. Finally, Min knocked the guard unconscious. Bombs set, called one of the team members. Fall back, ordered Ta. Get to cover. They ran from the ship, lungs burning from the toxic air and exertion. Behind them, the timers counted down. Inside the Vex command ship, alarms began to sound. The commander rushed to the bridge. What's happening? He demanded. Humans attacking from the east, reported an officer. And sensors just detected devices on our hull. Impossible, said the commander. They've been outside too long. The air should have. The EMP bombs exploded. Electricity crackled across the ship's systems. Lights went out. Weapons powered down. Communications died. From his position near their crashed ship, Jun watched the Vex command ship go dark. He smiled through his pain. "It worked," he said to Dr. Han. "The captain did it." In the field, Sue saw the Vex soldiers' weapons stop working. "Now," she shouted to her team, "push forward." The humans surged ahead, using their advantage. The confused Vex soldiers fell back. Some tried to fight, but without working weapons and communications, they were disorganized. Inside the Vex command ship, the commander stared at his dead screens. "How?" he whispered. "How are they still fighting? They should have collapsed from the toxic air. They should have surrendered from their injuries. What kind of species has no limits?" Outside, Captain Tai, his lungs burning and ribs screaming with pain, led his people forward. The counterattack had begun. While the battle raged outside, Communications Officer Min crawled back to the crashed HFY. Her arm was burned from a Vex weapon, and she could barely breathe from the toxic air. Still, she kept moving. "I need to get to the communication room," she told herself. "Have to send a real message, not just a beacon." The distress beacon Jun had fixed was working, but it only sent location and emergency signals. Min wanted to send more, proof of what was happening. She reached the ship and dragged herself inside. The air was cleaner here, and she took deep breaths. "Min." Dr. Han rushed to her. "You need treatment." Later, Min gasped. "Need to send message first." Han helped Min to the communications room. Some systems still work thanks to Jun's repairs. "What are you trying to do?" Han asked. "The beacon may not be enough," Min explained. "The Vex might intercept it or tell the Nuveri Council lies about us. I need to send proof of what we're doing, proof of what humans can do." Min began connecting medical sensors to herself. The small devices read her vital signs. "What are these for?" asked Han. "I'm going to send our medical data to both Earth and the Nuveri Council," Min said. "Let them see what humans are capable of." Han understood and helped connect more sensors. They gathered data from injured crew members who were still fighting. Captain Ta with his broken ribs, Sue with her deep cuts and burns, Jun with his crushed leg but working mind. The data showed high pain levels, dangerous heart rates, and stress readings that would shut down any Nuveri. But the humans kept going. Min worked the damaged communications array. "I need to boost the signal. Can you get me more power?" Han connected additional power cells. The system hummed to life. Outside, the counterattack was working. The Vex were confused by their disabled command ship. Captain Tai led his team to capture Vex weapons. Sue's group pushed forward from the east. But the Vex were still dangerous. They began to regroup. Their commander ordered them to attack with physical weapons instead of disabled energy guns. "Kill the humans," the Vex commander shouted. "They are too dangerous to live." Back in the communications room, Min finished her work. "Signal ready," she said. "Sending now." The message shot into space, carrying the medical data and a simple text. "To Korean Space Defense Force and Nuveri Council. We are under attack by Vex forces. They fear us because humans lack shutdown mechanisms. Attached data shows how we continue fighting despite injuries. We come in peace but will defend ourselves. These readings would cause any Nuveri to shut down, but humans keep going. We are not a threat. We are survivors." The message traveled faster than light, heading for both Earth and the Nuveri homeworld. On the Nuveri Council station, Commander Kell was arguing with other leaders. "The humans are not a threat," Kell insisted. "Yes, their biology is strange to us, but they came in peace." "The Vex reports say differently," argued another council member. "They claim humans are planning to attack our worlds." "The Vex lie," said Kell. "They fear what they don't understand." Suddenly, an aide rushed in. Urgent message from the human ship *HFY*. The council viewed Min's message. They saw the medical data, the impossible readings that would shut down any of their kind. They watched video clips of injured humans still fighting. "By the stars," whispered a council member. How is this possible? They keep going despite everything, said another in awe. Kel stood up. Now do you see? The humans aren't stopping because they choose not to stop. Their bodies allow it, but their minds control it. They fight now because they must survive, not because they love violence. The council was silent for a long moment. Send our fastest ships, the head counselor finally said. Stop the Vex attack. These humans have earned our respect, not our fear. Back on the moon, Min slumped in her chair. The message was sent. She had done her part. Dr. Han caught her as she finally allowed herself to rest. The message is away, Min whispered. Now we just need to survive long enough for help to arrive. Outside, the battle continued. The humans fought on, showing the galaxy what it meant to have no off switch. The moon's strange blue sun rose again. It was the third day since the crash. The humans had held their ground, but they were reaching their limits. Captain Tai sat behind a rock barrier, checking his weapon. Blood seeped through his uniform, where his broken ribs had punctured skin. His breathing was shallow, and his face was pale. Captain, you need medical attention, said Mira, who had stayed by his side throughout the battle. Later, Ta said simply, the Vex are gathering for another attack. This will be their biggest one yet. The Vex commander had brought all his forces together. The humans had surprised him with their ability to keep fighting, but he had numbers on his side. He watched the human positions through binoculars. They must be weakening, he told his officers. No species can fight forever. Even without shutdown mechanisms, they have physical limits. Sir, we're detecting an approaching ship, said an officer. It's Nuvari. The council asked the commander hopefully. No, sir, it's too small. Probably a scout. Ignore it. Focus on the humans. Attack in all directions this time. Overwhelm them. At the crashed ship, Dr. Han was running out of medical supplies. She had been working for 3 days with almost no sleep. Her hands shook as she tried to stitch a wound. You need rest, said a wounded crew member. We all do, Han replied. But the Vex won't give us any. In the communications room, June and Min worked together to boost their signal. June's leg was now infected, and he had a high fever. Still, his mind was clear. If we can tap into the Vex communication frequency, he said, we might be able to confuse them during their attack. Min nodded, too tired to speak. She hadn't slept in over 50 hours. Outside, Sue set up her last defense line. She had been shot twice but kept going. She positioned the remaining able-bodied crew members around the ship. When they come, she instructed, wait until they're close. Make every shot count. We're low on ammo. A young crew member looked at her with wide eyes. How are you still standing? You've been shot. Sue gave a tired smile. No off switch, remember. That's our advantage. The Vex began their attack with a roar. They came from all sides, hundreds of soldiers charging the human position. Hold steady, shouted Ta. Wait for my signal. The humans waited behind their barriers. When the Vex were 30 meters away, Ta gave the order. Fire. The humans shot with deadly accuracy. Vex soldiers fell, but more kept coming. The humans fired again and again until some of their weapons ran empty. Fall back to the ship, ordered Ta. Make them come to us. Inside the ship, Jum suddenly shouted in triumph. Got it. I'm in their comm system. He broadcast a high-pitched noise on the Vex frequency. The attacking soldiers clutched their communication devices in pain. Some stopped, confused by the loss of contact with their commanders. But it wasn't enough. There were too many Vex. They'd reached the ship's perimeter. Ta grabbed a metal pipe. Hand to hand now. Don't let them inside. The battle became desperate. Humans fought with whatever they could find. Pipes, tools, broken ship parts. Ta led from the front, ignoring his broken ribs and the blood running down his side. The Vex commander watched through his binoculars, amazed and horrified. His scanner showed the humans' life signs. By all logic, they should have collapsed hours ago. "Why won't they stop?" he whispered. "What drives them?" Mira fought alongside the humans, but soon fell back, her body shutting down from exhaustion and minor injuries. She watched in awe as Tai and Sue kept fighting despite wounds that would have killed any Nuvari. The Vex pushed closer. The humans were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Ta took a hit to his shoulder, but kept swinging his pipe. Sue was bleeding from multiple wounds, but still shot any Vex who came near. "Captain," called Min from inside the ship. "I'm picking up a signal. Multiple ships approaching fast." "Too late," Ta said grimly. "We have to hold until they get here, no matter what." The Vex commander gave the final order: rush them all at once. End this. As the wave of Vex soldiers charged forward, the exhausted, wounded, but still fighting humans prepared for what might be their last stand. They had reached their breaking point, but unlike the Nuvari, they could choose to push beyond it. The final wave of Vex soldiers crashed against the human defenses like a flood. Captain Ta swung his metal pipe with his good arm, his other hanging useless at his side. Security officer Sue fired her last bullets, then threw the empty gun at a Vex soldier and grabbed his weapon. "Keep fighting," Ta shouted over the noise. "Help is coming." The sky above them suddenly lit up with bright flashes. Large ships appeared, breaking through the clouds. They were Nuvari vessels, but not Vex design. These were the ships of the Nuvari Council. A voice boomed across the battlefield. "This is Commander Kell of the Nuvari Council fleet. All Vex forces, stand down immediately. This attack is unauthorized." The Vex commander looked up in shock. "The Council? How did they get here so fast?" The Council ships fired warning shots, creating explosions that shook the ground. Most Vex soldiers stopped fighting, confused by the arrival of their own people. "I said stand down." Commander Kell's voice came again. "Any who continue fighting will be considered traitors to the collective." The Vex commander raised his hand. "Stop. All forces, stop fighting." Slowly, the battle ended. Vex soldiers lowered their weapons. The humans, exhausted and wounded, didn't let down their guard. Large shuttles landed near the crashed HFY. Commander Kell stepped out, accompanied by council guards and medical teams. "Captain Ta," Kell called, walking toward the human position. Ta stepped forward, still holding his pipe. Blood covered his uniform, and he could barely stand. But his eyes were clear and determined. "Commander Kell," Ta nodded. "Your timing is excellent." "I apologize for this attack," Kell said. "The Vex acted without council approval. We came as soon as we received your message." "The message worked," Ta said, looking back at his ship where Min and Jun had sent the data. The Nuvari medical teams rushed forward to help the injured humans. They stopped in shock when they saw the humans' conditions. "How are they still conscious?" one Nuvari doctor asked. "These injuries would have triggered shutdown hours ago." Dr. Han stepped forward, barely able to walk herself. "Like we tried to explain, we don't have shutdown mechanisms." The Vex commander was brought before Commander Kell in handcuffs. "You will face justice for this attack," Kell said firmly. "They are dangerous," the Vex commander insisted. "You've seen how they fight. Without shutdown limits, they could destroy everything." Kell turned to Captain Ta. "Would you hurt us without reason?" Despite his injuries, Ta stood straight. "We came seeking friendship, not war. We defended ourselves because we had to survive. That's all." The council medical teams were scanning the humans, recording their vital signs and injuries. The data confirmed what Min had sent. These humans were fighting with broken bones, internal bleeding, severe exhaustion, and toxic exposure. "Impossible," whispered a Nuvari doctor. "Their bodies should have stopped to prevent permanent damage." Mira, who had recovered from her shutdown, stepped forward. "That's what I thought too. But I've seen what they can do. They choose when to stop. Their minds control their bodies, not the other way around." The Vex commander watched the humans being treated. His anger turned to confusion, then to something like wonder. "All this time," he said quietly, "we thought a species needed shutdown mechanisms to be civilized. We thought without limits, any species would destroy itself in endless violence." Commander Kell nodded. "We were wrong. These humans evolved differently. They developed mental control instead of physical limits. They can choose to push beyond pain, beyond exhaustion. But they also choose when not to." The injured humans were taken to the council ships for better medical care. Captain Ta was the last to leave the battlefield. Despite his serious injuries, he walked to the ship on his own feet, refusing to be carried. The Vex commander watched him go. "I can understand," he said. "Why keep fighting when your body is breaking? Why not surrender?" Commander Kell smiled slightly. "That's the revelation, isn't it? Humans don't have a physical off switch. Instead, they have something we don't: the ability to decide for themselves when to stop and when to continue. And that makes them stronger," the Vex commander realized. "Not more dangerous, stronger." As the council ships prepared to leave with the humans aboard, news spread throughout the Nuveri collective. The species without an off switch had proven to be not a threat, but something entirely new in the galaxy, a species that chose its own limits. 1 month later, Captain Ta stood on the observation deck of the Korean Space Defense Force headquarters. The Earth shone blue and beautiful below. His wounds were healing, though the doctors said he would always have scars. "Captain," a voice called. Ta turned to see Dr. Han approaching. She looked much better after weeks of proper rest. "The Nuveri ships have arrived," she said. "The treaty signing will begin soon." Ta nodded. "Is everyone ready?" "Yes. Sue is already in the meeting room. June will join us in his new powered chair. He's excited to show it to the Nuveri engineers." They walked together to the grand meeting hall. Representatives from all Earth nations were there, along with the full Nuveri Council. Commander Kell stood at the front, looking formal in ceremonial robes. Engineer June sat near the front in his powered wheelchair. His crushed leg was healing, but he would need more surgeries. Still, his mind was as sharp as ever. He was showing his chair's controls to a fascinated Nuveri engineer. Security Officer Sue stood at attention near the Earth delegates. Her wounds had healed faster than the others, and she was back on full duty. She nodded to Tai as he entered. Communications Officer Min was there too, talking with a group of Nuveri about the message that had saved them all. Commander Kell stepped to the center of the room as Captain Tai approached. "Today marks a historic moment," Kell announced. "The formal alliance between the Nuveri Collective and Earth." The room fell silent as Kell continued. "When we first discovered humans lacked neural shutdown mechanisms, we were afraid. We thought any species without built-in limits would be dangerous and violent. We were wrong." Kell gestured to Tai and his crew. "These humans showed us that true strength comes not from having limits forced upon you, but from choosing your own limits. They fought beyond what any Nuveri could endure, not because they love violence, but because they value life, their own and others." The treaty was brought forward on a floating platform. It was written in both human and Nuveri languages. "This treaty includes a special section," Kell explained. "The Nuveri Collective formally requests that humans serve as protectors of our joined worlds. Your unique abilities make you ideal defenders." Ta stepped forward. "We accept this honor, but we hope our off switch never needs to be tested again." They signed the treaty together. The room erupted in applause. After the ceremony, Mira approached Dr. Han. The Nuveri doctor had become a friend during their ordeal. "I've been studying human biology," Mira said excitedly. "I think we might be able to develop a temporary treatment that would allow Nuveri to override their shutdown mechanisms in emergencies. And I've been working on ways to help humans recover faster from pushing their limits," Han replied. "We can learn from each other." Nearby, Jun was deep in conversation with Nuveri engineers about a joint research facility. "We could develop technologies that work with both our species' strengths," he was saying. Sue had gathered a group of Nuveri security officers. I can teach you human combat techniques, she offered. Not so you can fight longer, but so you can fight smarter. Captain Ta watched his crew with pride. Then he felt a presence beside him. It was the former Vex commander, now stripped of rank, but serving as an advisor to promote understanding. I still don't fully understand you, the Vex admitted. How do you know when to stop if your body doesn't tell you? Ta smiled. That's the point. We choose. Sometimes we choose wrong and push too far. But the choice is ours. Your lack of an off switch frightened us, the Vex said. Now I see it's your greatest strength. Later that evening, a celebration was held. Humans and Nuvarim mingled, sharing stories and drinks. Captain Tai raised a glass for a toast. To new friends, he said, may we never need to test our limits again, but may we always have the strength to do so if needed. Commander Kell raised his glass in return. And to the humans, the species without an off switch, but with the wisdom to know when to keep going and when to stop. The treaty included one final line that would become famous throughout the galaxy. In recognition that humans alone among known sentient species do not possess a neurological off switch during combat, and with profound respect for this evolutionary gift, we entrust our collective future to our Earth allies. The universe would never look at humans the same way again.